Welcome back to the Lead Her Lab. And if it's your first time, welcome to a place that I hope you will call home. My name is Marsha Flemings Walker. It's my pleasure to have you. And I'm particularly excited because this month we get to have some company. It's Women's History Month. And the theme this year is Women Who Tell Our Stories. And so this month we'll be talking to a few women, a few powerful women who will be sharing their stories with us. And their stories are meant to help us. They're meant to impact us. They're meant to help us on our journey. All right. So today in the Lead Her Lab, we'll be talking to Kedecia Lauder, who is a global talent acquisition and recruitment expert who has been in the workforce less than a decade, but has secured 8 promotions throughout her short tenure. She's a marketing and PR major and a writer who is currently working on her first book. She hosts webinars and seminars as a part of her philanthropic initiatives, and she leads a talent acquisition team in multiple international markets. And her team consists of multicultural, multiracial, multi-shore TA experts that hire thousands of individuals annually. So as you can hear, this positions her perfectly to have the conversation with us today about just how much your age does not have to be a barrier for your success. As a young woman who has experienced rapid career acceleration, today she's going to share her story to help all of us understand what we need to do to position ourselves for career acceleration. All right, so welcome, Miss Kedecia Lauder. Kedecia, I am so excited to have this conversation with you today. I absolutely adore you. I absolutely adore what you've accomplished. And I mean, I just respect it, right? So this introduction says a lot to us about you. And obviously, you're a young woman, you've achieved a lot. And so tell us a little bit about your journey. I know I told them that your title, the size of the team that you're leading, but tell us where you started and give us an idea of what that journey looked like. How did you even secure like 8 promotions so quickly?
Absolutely. I think the thing that sets me apart from a lot of people who enter the workforce is I was just so eager. I was so eager to wow myself on my journey, because even though I achieved these things while going through it, I did not believe that they were possible for me. And I'm like, okay, let's see if I can wow my own brain into thinking that I'm deserving of this particular thing. So I was just so eager at every level to wow myself. And it's like, all right, I did this. Could I really do this other thing? And you just keep on going and you keep on going. But I had a level of hunger that is unprecedented. I don't think I've come across another person, across all the people that I manage, that are just so hungry and just willing to learn. And I know that that came from a lot of the struggles that I encountered earlier in my life, because I had to grow up very, very fast. And it allows you to, it creates a certain kind of posture. There's a level of humility. There's a level of understanding when you enter spaces. And I believe that I'm a student of everything and everyone. So just going in, being really, really hungry, wanted to wow myself, not having that self-belief initially, but because when you're younger, you don't have the experience to be confident, and confidence comes from the experience. So I didn't have the experience to be confident, but I wanted to just see if I could hack my brain into believing that I was deserving of these things. And I still am like, did I do that? Did I really just do that? So I'm still in awe of all that has happened.
Okay, so I'm hearing a lot of hunger, right? I heard the word hunger. I sense drive based on how you were describing, you deciding, I'm going to wow myself. I'm going to see if I can make my brain believe this thing that I'm going to pursue. And so the audience doesn't know, and I don't think you spoke to that a while ago, but your beginnings were humble. And so talk to us a little bit about Kedecia before you started this journey, like in terms of your mindset and what created that mindset, so that there's a place we can connect this hunger that you were talking about.
Absolutely. So I grew up in very, very, very humble beginnings. The youngest of three. I'm the only girl. I'm a single mother. The entire dynamic that you can think about, moved around a lot because you can't afford to pay the bills. And then at 17 years old, I became pregnant with my son. And I had him at 18. So then that then puts you into another dynamic where it's like, okay, you're okay. Before I continue, I should become the poster child for people not getting pregnant early in life. I promise you, for anybody who is watching this, it makes the journey significantly harder. It doesn't make it impossible, but it makes it significantly harder. So, I then became a teen mom, and then I was locked into another area. So I removed myself from poverty, and then I was in a relationship that was not serving me any at all. And I did that for a really long time because I did not know that anything outside of that existed. And there was a lot of things that came with that, a lot of infidelity, a lot of abuse, just all the recipe for toxicity that you can imagine. It was being displayed in that moment. And I lived like that for many, many years. And I say many years because a lot of people would say, but you're relatively young, and you've been able to accomplish, but it just feels like it has been forever just going through that. And I actually got my first, when I applied for my first job, I did it because I was just needing something to feel alive, to feel human. I was just so locked away and so isolated. I wasn't showing up as anything at that point. So I needed something that I could call my own. And I did that with that position that I applied for. And going into that, I saw that, oh my God, I can escape a life that I no longer desire if I play this thing right. So going into it, first job, you're not earning a lot of money, but I understand the opportunity that existed. And I wanted to reinvent myself. I wanted to reinvent the wheel so bad. So that level of hunger, it came from really fighting for my life. It really came from fighting for my life. The life that I get to live today, it would not have happened had I not really going with that disposition that says I want to make a change. And I think this is the avenue that I use to do it.
If you could identify three things that you said are the things that set you apart, and those were the things that really helped to push you, what would those things be?
Absolutely. So just thinking back to who I was when I got my first promotion, I was so eager to learn. I was eager to learn, and I was okay with saying, I don't know, I don't understand. Can you teach me? That was the first thing that I think really started to allow my leaders to look at me and say, hold on, man. I think we have something here, because you know that in a workspace, everyone wants to clock out at 5 and shoot, gone home. Nobody really wants to say, can I stay back and learn how to do this thing? And I did that because I just wanted to be good at my job the following morning, not because I was vying for a promotion, but if I was struggling in a particular area. So I want to learn. So I was really, really hungry to learn, and I was insanely consistent. I was consistent in showing up every single day and give it my absolute best. And I say this all the time. I don't think I was better or I'm better than anybody who were my peers or who I started out with, but I couldn't afford to not have consistent days, because I knew that the life that I'm escaping requires this level of consistency. There was no plan B, C, or D. So I had to show up every single day and give it all I got. And I advocated for mentors, Marsha. I believe mentorship has changed my life incredibly. So in every area, for the people who I reported to, I advocated to build a relationship with them outside of the confines of the office and understand what I can do to become better. What should I be reading? What should I be listening to? How can I change my life a full 360? And so I think those three independent pieces coupled together really kind of set me on the trajectory to the person that you know today.
You said something, and I heard a quote recently or read it someplace that spoke about comfort. The place of our comfort is where that's where people go to die. That's where things start to die in our lives. And so for anybody that's watching this video, and again, especially as we're in Women's History Month, and this is a place where we talk about leadership and how we create impact as women, not just in the workplace, but in any environment where we lead. I really want to kind of stick on that point for just a minute. So when you talk about mentorship, Kedecia, and having the experience of being a mentor, being a coach, even while being in corporate, and being that for my team members, one of the things that I notice is that everybody isn't always at the place where they're like, you know what, I want to learn, I want to grow, I want to be consistent. And so I'm not going to always be talking out at exactly dead on the time. I'm not going to be the person that's here in right on time and leaving exactly on that time. I want to expand my knowledge. I want to expand what I'm aware of. Some people struggle with that because they're thinking, if I'm not getting paid for this, if I'm not, if I'm not being rewarded, if I'm not being compensated, they're unwilling to make an investment in their future selves, in their success that is to come. And so I want you to speak to that even a little bit more in terms of
Yeah.
what mentorship did for you, because that's just something that I don't think everybody understands early enough. I think by the time many of us get it, we've wasted so many opportunities where that mentorship could have started to impact our lives already.
Certainly. I think the first thing we have to evaluate, regardless of how young we are, is what do we want our future to look like? Like, who do we want to become? Like, what does that look like 10, 15 years down the line? Who does she hang out with? Who does she, who does she date? Where does she spend her time? What does she read? So I really, and when I went through that evaluation, I saw that I wanted to be extremely successful in corporate spaces. I wanted to lead people. I have a passion for that, and I wanted to serve. And I knew that at the time I was at an entry level position, so I was doing none of those things, but people above me were doing the very things that I aspired for. And it was a no-brainer. And I commend organizations that are committed to hiring or employing leaders who are so welcoming and open to serving the people below them, because that is the true recipe for success. There is no degree, there is no TED talk, there is nothing that can transform a workplace the way an immediate leader can when they take up the phone and say, hey, how are you doing today? The numbers look a bit off. Can we talk through that? That's my recipe for success with how I lead my team. So I think people have to really evaluate their lives and look at what it is that they want. And through that evaluation, you may realize that, okay, I probably don't want to grow in this space. I probably want to grow somewhere else. But whatever that desire is, mentorship is extremely important earlier rather than later on your journey. It gives you some direction. It gives you visibility into a space that you don't occupy yet. And I think that is just there is no money that can quantify what that really does. I was able to understand how people that are my boss think, what they want to see in the organizations. I was able to pivot and position myself. So by the time a position came up, they were like, Kedecia has been displaying this particular thing for a few months, and you're not doing this to secure a position. While that will become that usually is the outcome, but you as an individual, you want to be better, you want to be the best version of yourselves. So even if you transition and you're serving another company, you take that with you. So this investment is for you. The things that I've learned from my mentor, the books that she's given me, the different things that I've been able to acquire, I now give them to my mentees because that information was given to me. It is now mine and I can share it accordingly. So mentorship is for you. It's not to validate the mentor, it's really for the mentee. Your life transforms astronomically. You start to think about things in an entirely different way because because you're just not there yet on your journey. And the difference between you and your mentor is that they would have probably had years ahead of you, years in the organization, and that is the knowledge that you want to be able to tap into. And I don't think it's not advantageous for any of us to wait for the 10, 15, 20 years to acquire that knowledge. When you have people like you, Marsha, who are in organizations who are saying, hey, let me help you transition from this place to the next. So mentorship, it's not for the mentor, it's really for the mentee.
Tell me, how easy was it for you to find someone that was willing to say, you know what, I want to partner with you for your success? Because I can hear some young women watching this now thinking, well, of course, maybe you had a boss who was so happy to
Mm-hmm.
mentor you and who saw your potential, but that's not my experience. I'm in an organization where I don't feel seen, or, it's my immediate boss just doesn't seem to have that mindset. What would you say to a young person who feels like, okay, my immediate boss is not like that, so how can I find help? um or they're just thinking that because their boss isn't like that, then there's no hope for them, they're just stuck and they have to kind of deal with it. What would you say to a young woman dealing with that?
Well, firstly, you can't limit yourself to the confines of the people in that office. It is known that leaders aren't always representative of the ideal behaviors that we know they should exhibit, and that's fine. It exists. We
Well,
can't force anyone to change.
managers, supervisors,
Manager,
directors.
right. So, it definitely does exist, but we live in a time where Sarah Jakes Roberts is one of my mentors, and she has no idea I exist. She has no idea I exist. So it comes back to the same thing, evaluating your life and looking at what that future looks like for you, and who online, in person, in your community, who exhibits those behaviors. They don't need to be your immediate report, but what happens is once you start to do the work, your immediate report is going to notice. They're going to see that you stayed later today. They're going to see that you helped one of your peers as opposed to throwing them under the bus. So that behavior is going to come, it's just going to come up naturally because you're doing the work. So don't limit your mentorship to your supervisor or your director or your manager, because they may not be interested in that. And also be okay with crossing departments. At one point in my career, my mentor was a CFO of finance. I've never worked in finance a day in my life, but we were having a discussion. I saw that this man was brilliant, and I said, hey, can I book some time with you every week? And he's like, okay. And a lot of times, if they don't have this specific thing in their departments, they're so happy to bring another person on board and put you under their wing and really help you to develop. And it allows you to learn different parts of a business or different parts of the organization, so you can have an enterprise impact. So you become an enterprise leader. So you not only can service the thing you do, but you have an understanding of the larger portion of the business. So it doesn't need to be your immediate supervisor. The only thing that needs to happen is that you do the work. That is the only thing that needs to happen. Whatever you learn from online, from books, from your mentor, from whomever it is, it's now for you to do the work, and the work will absolutely speak for itself. How you show up to these meetings will speak for itself. How you treat people will speak for itself, and the results will just be astronomical.
We've talked about you and your journey, and I know we're just touching the surface of it because these interviews are really meant to introduce what is possible. And as the theme for this year says, women who tell our story, and seeing where you come from, what you've gone through, and how you've been able to create that success, the kind of mindset that has helped you to create that success. I want you to tell me now that you lead such a large team, and particularly because it's multicultural, multi-shore, all of these things, I think you would then be able to see a very diverse group. Tell me, what are some of the things that you are seeing within young women in particular who have the potential? You can identify that there's the potential and capacity in them to grow, but what are you seeing that are the things that are holding them back?
Yeah, as soon as you said this, I could think about 10 to 15 people across my teams who, just came to mind. And it's just that they don't have the experience to believe in themselves enough. That's really all it is. They don't have the experience, and they think that there's this big space of the unknown that they are not qualified for. And with people like that, as a leader, I have to just affirm them as often as humanly possible. Everyone, and when you're doing such a great job, good work today, you have to affirm them because they're so early on their journey. They don't really understand that it's nothing that you can't do, or it's nothing that you can't tap into, but that space of the unknown, that space of the inexperience, that's where a lot of instability comes in, or a lot of fear, or a lot of self-esteem issues, because you think that, oh my God, these people who sit in these seats, they are clearly better than me. I remember thinking like that, when I started out, that these people clearly have something that I do not have, and that's why they are who they are, and that's why I'm who I am. But the variance there, it's just the years of experience. It's just the years of experience. There's nothing gravely different about one person versus the next. It's just the years that they have under their belt and the years of experience. So for people who are in spaces and I see them holding themselves back, I affirm them as often as humanly possible. I let them know that they're doing a good job. I let them know that they are seen, and I ask them, what is it that you want to do? Like, what does your next 2-3 years look like, and allow them to guide that narrative. And sometimes, I've had one-on-ones with people where they're like, oh, I just really love this job and I'm okay with just, doing this. And I'm like, okay, that's perfect. Happy to know that you're enjoying your time here, but what are you truly passionate about? And I throw things out there because you have to unlock the mind as well. You really have to unlock the mind. And I know that for a lot of us, until we start to have intentional conversations with people who have years of experience ahead of us, we don't even know what we don't know. So I'll throw things out there. Do you like leading? Do you think you could be a trainer? And then you'll hear, oh, I like to teach. So, okay, you could go into learning and development. So leading them that way and giving them the homework to do. Hey, look at this profession, look at this position, and let me know what you think about it. And then they get so hyped up. They're so eager to come back and share what they have now learned. And then you instill a burning desire in them, and they're like, okay, I'm now working towards something. So instilling that confidence in the people that report to you, because they deserve it. And it's not that they are so qualified, but they just don't think they are qualified for this thing, for this next step, for this next level. So as a leader, it's your responsibility to unlock their mind, and also understand that not everyone is cut out for everything. So really having specific conversations with people who you think, okay, you are not ready yet. I have been told I'm not ready once in my career, and I almost dropped down ball yet. Listen. I could not believe that this first, because I thought I was ready. And when I was ready, I was, and I got what I was deserving of. So really having discussions, empowering your people, building their confidence. It is so nerve-wracking to be the 21-year-old in an office, or to be the 22-year-old, and everyone seems like they're smarter, they're better, they went to the Ivy League schools, and you just feel so out of place. But leaders, it is our responsibility to build our people up. It is your responsibility to instill that confidence in the people that you know have the capability to grow and advance. And they're reliant on you to just step up and play your part. And the return is going to be phenomenal. You can be on a beach in Tahiti and know that your team, your department is doing okay. And that's what it's all about.
So there's one thing that just came to my mind. I hadn't planned on touching on this, but something you said a while ago. So sometimes we find that there are people with positions or titles that give them decision-making power, right? But they lack real leadership skills, real leadership ability. Within themselves, they may mean well, but that may not have been cultivated in them. And so when you think about some young persons who may have started to experience some success, they have a title that gives them some decision-making power. They have persons who report to them, but nobody invested in them prior to them getting there. And so they are now in that position, as we lead from the core of who we are, leading or managing or directing without a very good core, without a core that understands what leadership is. And they see that kind of investment as difficult, too time consuming, all of those things. When a young woman enters into a role where she has decision-making power, but she didn't receive that herself, so she doesn't even understand yet the importance of giving that. Where does she start to develop that inside of herself?
First, I would tell them to call you and put you on payroll. But I think, let's think about the longevity piece. Once you start to grow in an organization, and if you want to be leading people long term, you want to become a manager, then a director, then a senior director, you're going to be leading people for a really long time. And leaders need to understand that the success of their team is their success. You will not be viewed successful if your team is not doing well. So you are not serving these people out of philanthropy, because whatever they do is an immediate reflection of what you do. So it's a double-edged sword. You're not mentoring them because, yes, we want them to grow and we want them to develop, but in the confines of the organization, if they don't do well, you don't do well. And if you're thinking about longevity, if you're thinking about you too growing from this position to growing into a more executive seat, your team has to reflect that you understand, you have the characteristics to bring them to that next level. So if you want to grow as a leader, your team has to be bulletproof strong. And that's just the reality of it. Directors or managers who their team performs poorly, they don't get promoted into a C-suite position, because your team is an immediate reflection of you. So if this is what you want to do, if this is the long goal, you have to really invest in these people. And also, there has to be some internal work. I understand that ego seeps in and the arrogance seeps in, and oh my God, I'm now in charge of this thing, and I'm the lady, or I'm the man. but there has to be some internal work that you do within self. The more I grow professionally, I find that it's the kinder I become. It's the more I exercise humility, because I understand how scary it is for the people who report to me. I understand now, okay, now she's the senior manager. I'm afraid to reach out to her. So you have a responsibility to check yourself as often as humanly possible. What's my tone? What am I saying to these people? Have I created an atmosphere where my team is confident coming to me and talking to me? So you really have to work on whatever that ego or that pride is. You really, really have to work on it. And just, I think leaders who lead to serve is just the most beautiful thing. It's the most rewarding thing. And I know a lot of us, we have moved into leadership positions. We didn't get the investment that we deserved, but we are here now. We are here now, and we have people who are looking up to us. Isn't it our responsibility to do the work within self so we can serve them in the way that we weren't served? Isn't that what it should all be about? So you Miss Lady, who was just promoted to the senior whatever position, it is now your responsibility to pull the new girl up, pull her up, empower her, give her what you needed. And there's a lot of gratification within the workplace when you start to develop this type of attitude. And even if it's self-serving, your boss will love that your people are so empowered and so strong. Your boss will love that your attrition is almost non-existent. They love how you retain their staff. They love how your staff shows up early to everything, just because of how invested they are in your success. So it has to be reciprocal, but as the leader, they're looking to you to initiate this change.
Yeah. I often say when discussing this kind of topic is that we get to do it differently. I had the opportunity of having some amazing leaders, but I also had some that kind of taught me what not to be, who not to be, and what leadership shouldn't look like, you know? And so
Mhm.
I've decided that we get to do it, I get to do it differently. And I encourage anybody who did not have that experience that you get to do it differently. And to close out, I want to talk about vision, because one of the reasons that I've found over the years in my own career, in coaching and consulting, is that where the person with the decision making power, you know, the manager, the director, whomever, has a limited vision for themselves and for their own growth, it affects how they, you know, invest in their team. It affects how they prepare their team. It affects, you know, what information they share with the team, because then if you don't have a vision for where you're going next, it breeds insecurity, right? And
Mhm.
so when you think about the vision that you were able to create for yourself from the very beginning, when you said, you know what, I'm fighting for my life and I need something different, in your experience, just talk to us a little bit, and not even to me, right? Really to the person who is watching this. How would you encourage them to start to streamline and become clear about building that vision for themselves as a professional?
Absolutely. So, the vision comes from overall perspective. And I think it has to be said that regardless of what seat you sit in now, having a mentor, having some form of leadership training is never going to be outside of your toolbox. You always need that. You always need someone who is above you professionally, who is above you just with what they've accomplished in life, to sow seeds so you can then internalize and decide if this is where I want to go. So you can't get to a position where you are your own source of truth. You will always remain stuck. There always has to be someone pouring into you. That will never change for me, regardless of if I become the prime minister of Jamaica. You always have to have someone. So because you need to have people around you with foresight to create your reality. Foresight is extremely important. So yes, you're at a manager's seat now. what does the next 5 years look like for you? Do you want to stay here and start a family? That's okay too. That's admirable, but you have to be very intentional about where you want to go, and have these relationships with people who you look up to, and understand why do you look up to them. What about their lives is it that I want to emulate? Because when you look up to someone, there's something that you want to emulate about there's something about them that you deem desirable. So really look at the people who you look to, and understanding, okay, why do I enjoy this person? Why do I think this person is so incredible? And sow the seeds within your own life to take you to the next step, because it's easy to feel like we've made it. It is so easy to feel like we've made it if we are the most successful people we talk to. If you're the most successful person you talk to, okay, all right. So you can't be the most successful person you know. You can't be the most successful person you talk to. And once you're able to keep that layer there, you will always be able to gather some new perspective. You'll always be able to have some additional foresight to take you to the next step. So it's really is about relationship building. And I keep going back to mentoring, because mentoring it saves lives. It saves lives. So do not be the most successful person you have in your phone. Do not be the most successful person you know, because there's still so much that you need to unlock. And sitting in a management, especially for those of us who are high achiever, for those of us who are extremely ambitious, after a while, there comes the need for another challenge. There comes the need to want to push that boundary again. And if you're not surrounding yourself with people who can give you insight into what that could look like for you, that's where, as you said, a lot of unhappiness starts to set in. You start to just feel so stuck, because you're like, okay, you've no longer invested in what your future could be. So surround yourself with people who can take you to the next level, regardless of where your current level is.
Yeah, I love it. And I just want to acknowledge you again for all that you have accomplished, and for the initiatives, the philanthropic initiatives that you undertake, all that you do to pour into young people. For our YouTube listeners, watchers, however this YouTube language goes, her contact information will be in the description. So please go ahead and connect with her. And especially so, I am assuming if you're part of this community, that these conversations are what you are seeking. This is a voice of someone who has overcome great odds and has achieved great success, and understands what it means to not allow your age, not allow your circumstances even to be the defining thing, or to be the thing that holds you back, but instead it can be fuel to say, I need to move forward. Kedecia, thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you in the lab. And as I say to all the listeners, my biggest request is always to share. Of course, I want you to like. Of course, I want you to comment. Of course, I want to hear what provoked any thoughts for you in this particular conversation. But I want you to share this. I want you to think about the young women who are attached to you, your friend's daughter, your friend's niece, whomever it may be, someone who is going through their own professional journey, and they would benefit from hearing the story of Kedecia today. Thank you so much, and I'll see you again in the lab.